Okay, so now I'm going to show you putting up a ponytail with a braid around the base of it, which is something that Tracy asked for. So I'm going to do that. Also, remember, all of these hairstyles that I'm recreating, please remember that we're doing these off of burial finds, stone carvings, all sorts of things that it's not hair like we have today. Please try to remember that. Again, I'll reiterate, we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars. The beauty industry is one of the largest industries in the world to get our hair to look and feel nice. They didn't do that in period. So everything's going to look different. An artist painted things differently. Sometimes women were painted way wealthier than they actually were. You paid all of the good artists for that. That's why they got the big artist bucks. So I bumped it. I could feel it. I bumped it. So ponytail. There's several different ways to do the braid around the ponytail. Some people leave this bottom section of hair out and then braid it. I like to include it in. And then what I literally do is, if you can see, I'm going up into the middle of the ponytail, but leaving that top layer of hair out. So I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to take this, remember, control, and find a clip. I have a billion of them. Now, if I were doing this on a real person, I would just simply ask them to hold that. And then you can do as many braids as you want out of the hair that's hanging down. And the reason I do this with the under hair is because it's not going to show in the ponytail once it's all hanging down. So you do want to make sure you have your ponytail good and tight to your head. This doesn't really work well with a loose ponytail. Seriously, doesn't. So once I have that braided and tied off, I'm going to take that. Now, and here's the part that nobody tells you about. You want to pin as you go. And the reason is that if you, especially if you're using a lot of long hair, if you try to pin this after it's all laid up in there, you're going to end up with a mess. It'll be a nightmare for you. Because you want it to stay. And you're trying to now pin through multiple layers of hair. That's not going to work. So every time I go halfway around, I put another pin in it so that it holds. And then I take my end, I pick my bobby pin up off the floor. I'm going to twist this up out of the way so you guys can see hopefully what I'm doing. So there's my little end. So I'm going to fold it back on itself, set it up in there, and then shove that last bobby pin up in there, get it up out of the way. And now, because I pinned this in multiple places, it's not going to slide back down the ponytail. Now, if you wanted to do the Viking, what I think the Viking hair thing looked like, I would probably do about 3 more of these. Well, let's just do them. How about we do that? How about we just do them? If you are blessed to have long enough hair to do the Viking thing, well, we'll do one more. Mazel tov. Most of us aren't blessed with either long enough or thick enough hair to do the Viking thing. In which case, the other way you can do it is to do a ponytail of your own hair and put it up and get it secure, and then take a piece of fake hair and wrap it around, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then take your own ponytail and braid it, or have somebody braid it into a bunch of braids. Super fun. And in this case, if I'm going to do 2 braids like this around it, I'm going to wrap it the opposite direction. Because now when I pin it in place, it'll help hold the other one as well. And because I want it to be a bigger looking bun, I'm going to kind of go on the outside of this one, because let's face it, that knot that they had looks in the carvings like it was pretty substantial. Again, looks in the carvings. You'll notice it's not a painting. We have not found a bog find with this yet that I know of. It's just the stone carvings and the jewelry that we seem to have it in. So that could also be up for a lot of interpretation. So twisting that end, get that bobby pin in, and then with a hairpin, you can take the rest of that up and just tuck it in to get that point off. Right, and now I have this guy. So let's talk about some of the products that was used in all sorts of periods. We know that lanolin was used in a lot of places, in a lot of different areas to hold things together. But I would like to point out that lanolin was also used by swimmers swimming across the English Channel, not to keep them warm, and not to give them better water resistance, but to keep their skin from chafing. So this stuff was thick enough to keep their skin from chafing, and the Vikings and other peoples put it in their hair. Can you imagine what that was like to get out? Yeah, neither can I. Which may have been one of the reasons why, other than that was the only way they knew how to make soap, that they used lye soap to wash their hair. So like, bleh. They used lanolin, they used wax, they used actual tallow, and if they were lucky enough to have them, beeswax, which again is not great to get out of hair. But these people also wore their hair in these styles for weeks, sometimes months, depending on if they were traveling or not. Honey was very occasionally used. I can only find a couple of references to it. Honey, tar, and resin are the two that I can only find a couple of references to. And those were really only used in high court's later period. It would have been really expensive and kind of a valuable thing to use up, whereas wax, you know, you get down to the end of a candle, you either pour it in to be remelted and make other things, or you can put it in your hair. Animal fat is another one, which is kind of disgusting. If you want to try to use wax in your hair, they actually make hair wax. It's usually available in a men's department. They make two different kinds. They make a spray-on hair wax. Comes in a can. It's a little bit lighter weight. I don't particularly like that one because the nozzle gets clogged up super fast and you end up wasting a bunch of money. And then they also make kind of a pomade wax, which comes in a little flat tin or jar that you just kind of scoop it out with your fingers and put that in. The nice thing about that wax is it's water soluble. It comes off when you wash it out, as opposed to beeswax, which doesn't. It turns into goo when you try to wash it out. Anything that has sugar or is a natural product in it will eventually not only go bad, but cause friendly little neighbors to move into your hair. Bugs, lice, all sorts of fun things. Ew, please don't do it. Hairspray, of course, we didn't have anything that was like hairspray in period, but gosh, it's convenient and easy to use. And it does make the hair much easier to, again, wash back out. Mousse is gel that has been aerated and put in a solution that comes out, and it's basically because when gel came out in the 80s, and people were using it on their over-permed, over-bleached, processed hair, they were using too much of it. It became literally brittle, and the hair would crack off and come off. And so they created mousse so that people didn't use as much gel in their hair didn't become brittle and fragile and crack off, which to me is always, you know, for the win. Because I'm assuming that even though you want to do period hair for SCA stuff occasionally, you probably don't want to actually have your own hair crack off and break. So please don't do that. Okay, so and that's the Viking wrapped braid. Do dun dun dun. So again, instead of using candle wax or tallow, you want to use hair wax. You can find it at any beauty supply store, Target, Walmart, they all carry it. Amazon carries it. I don't, for topical stuff, gels, hairsprays, mousses, waxes, pomades, it doesn't really matter what you use because it's not actually entering your hair shaft. Some of them are higher in alcohol and can dry your hair out. If you're not going to put it on your hair every day, I wouldn't worry about it. If you want your hair to absolutely fucking stay in place no matter what, Aquanet is your best friend. I still use it for 50s updo because, dude, not going anywhere. But so instead of wax or tallow, hair wax or pomade will work. Instead of honey or sugar water, gel or mousse will work just fine. And then to set everything in place, you of course want to use hairspray to get it all to stick. So ta-da! So that's lesson number 2.